Thank you, Alf, for joining us. Alf, you're with Financial Sciences. You want to just give a short background?
Sure. Thanks, Craig. Thanks for having us. I'm Alf Newlin. I'm a principal of Financial Sciences. Financial Sciences produces ATOM. It's a treasury management system for institutional treasuries. We're big believers in visualization. That's why we're here today.
So let's just take a few moments to talk about the history of dashboards. I mean, dashboards are sort of ways of presenting information that would just like, it's on the screen, maybe you can't do anything with it. And then the next iteration was you could click through it. And then maybe the next one after that is you can act on it and take some action and beyond. Maybe we could flip to the first slide, and then Alf, you could just explain. I asked him to show, this is not a marketing pitch at all, but I asked him to show a sample of some of their dashboards and how they visualize that data. So maybe you just explain some of the things that you see here, how that visualization helps, and what some of your thinking is on dashboards and cockpits.
Sure. As I said, we're a big believer in visual approach to user interfaces. And that means when you log into the system, the first thing you should see is a visual. And we take visuals all the way through the entire process. So that's workflow management, that's managing positions, that's doing transaction processing, as well as reporting. So everything, whenever possible, should be visual. So here's a montage of different screens that show you what visual could be. You have some workflow, you have some metrics, you have some pie charts, click-throughs, you have maps integration, which is increasingly very important for Treasury. And then of course you have, you can never get away with looking at certain numbers and listings of numbers, but it's all integrated in. The second and last point we want to make is that we believe that all these should really be a user's home screen, so they can look at everything they need to see to manage their job, and then act accordingly.
So one aspect is customization, being able to move these around or put it whatever the user wants to see. But a couple points. So what's the purpose of having a map? I can think of a number of areas why you would want information shown on a map, but what are the typical uses for a geolocation type view?
So one of the obvious and big drivers is looking at cash. If you want to look at global cash in a region, maps are a fantastic way to do it. So you can see up here, you can see just a little bit. This shows you amount of cash held in different countries, all in a base currency equivalent, could be euro, dollar, whatever it is. So you can see immediately in one graph cash concentration by country. And this happens to be a country map, which could have a state map or a currency map or anything like that. So it's very fast to see. And then if you want to go down and see more detail, you can drill down into every country.
Okay, so if I'm a treasurer and there's a tsunami, some kind of earthquake, a tsunami, an impact on northern Japan, I can see what area might be impacted geographically by an event.
Yeah.
Maybe I want to see stuff by bank. Maybe there's a problem with French banks, or I pick on French banks a lot, Greek banks, right, if there are any left. So now I can see and cut that data different ways.
You can cut it different ways, and you can look at different types. You can look at types of cash. So for liquidity, you can strip out all your reserve cash or cash collateral and look at free cash. So you can look at it for liquidity purposes. You can look at it for counterparty risk. We have concern about a certain bank. Show me all the cash we have with that bank.
So when I think about dashboards, sometimes some elements I want to see just static data, just kind of tell me management by objective. Here's numbers I want to see on a daily basis, and that's kind of traditional. Some other elements of that are management by exception. Where is something that's out of compliance or out of alignment with what I'm expecting? It could be operational, it could be counterparty risk levels like you talked about. Right. And then finally, how can I do some analysis? I have visualization. As a user, can I ask that next question with my data, with my dashboards, with my cockpits?
Yes.
And then can I act on it? So tell me a little about your thinking about any of these elements, or how you address those types of needs, operational, exception management, or action.
So those 3 points. The first one with regard to exception management, we don't really have a screenshot here, but part of our visualization is workflow.
Okay.
And workflow can show you event workflow. So it can show you a fraud issue, like a unknown ACH drawdown of a certain size. It could show you a counterparty limit violation, or it could show you your standard workflow where you're looking at setting up new bank accounts, where you're sending out wires, looking for confirmations, things like that.
Okay. a wire is ready for approval, and then we're 15 minutes within a cutoff.
Exactly.
I can see that. Excellent. How about, so that's one. How about actionable stuff? I see stuff I want to make some kind of action on that.
So all of our, in terms of our technology, we don't really look at this as dashboarding or reporting. This is the screen you use to do stuff. So up here you can see certain things that you would do in detail, but more importantly, any of these graphs are click-throughs. So if you want to go and look at account status and look at that, or you want to look at accounts to approve, you click through and you do it. So it's all actionable, every graph that we do. All this is user definable. So this is self-service reporting. We start with some good starting places, but and business people can create their own dashboards from this. They can get any data element that they want, and they can create their own workflows, they can create their own graphs, they can create their own events. So we give them all the tools so they can take it further.
I mean, that seems to be a big trend in business intelligence, big data, business intelligence. Can I ask questions?
Yep.
Those questions generate more questions.
Yep.
Do I have to go back to IT or to a vendor to do that? How can I be self-service oriented, discovery oriented?
Exactly. And we thought from the beginning that even to go to their own IT, finance people would prefer to do it themselves. So can the tool support that? It can. It's drag and drop, and they can create their own reports, and usually they go much further than we do.
Why don't you just explain some of the top points in terms of visualization and dashboards? What do we gain from that? What can Treasury, other areas gain from dashboards?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. We're doing this visualization not because we like the pretty pictures or we just like it. We're doing it for payoff, for ROI on Treasury technology. And if you this is generically what we see out there for what the market wants. They want to see visibility. Number two, they want to have compliance, and maybe three now, they want automation. It seems to shift. Automation used to be the top one. Those are the core benefits. So to tie into those, what does visualization do for you? It's a huge benefit in productivity. It's much easier to manage a lot of data visually. It's much easier to do workflow visually. If you're working reports or you're working with detail screens, you just can't see everything that quickly. Eventually you can, but visually you can see it right away and act on it right away. So number one, I think, is productivity. It cuts labor costs, for sure. Number two, certainly, is risk and compliance. It's much easier to see and faster to see exceptions, limit exceptions, or fraud issues, or anything like that. And very important to our customer base is the ability to report to the CFO and executive management. And if you're using a visual platform, you automatically can on demand, produce visual reports. And these days, I don't see any CFO type report from Treasury that doesn't have visuals.
Sure, excellent. So it helps with helps the management understand what's going on. And just like your cockpit or your dashboard, you see the red line, my tachometer is approaching the red, I'm in the red. I know I'm going to have problems. Now it gives me that ability, that type of feedback for whether it's management by objective, here's my standard, management by exception, and allows you to make adjustments as you go forward that. So any final thoughts on the end game of dashboards? Any other comments that you'd want to leave?
One should think about it as being the leading, not the end part of the process. So I think it's even going to go much further than what we have. I think that people want to be able to do 3D type of modeling. It sounds kind of silly, but forecasts is a very good example of doing 3D visualizations of looking at different impacts on forecasts for liquidity or cash forecasts. So I think it's just the beginning.
Thank you, Alf. I really liked your comment there. Basically start with the end. What are you looking to know and find out? And then you can go back to the detail as opposed to build up to it. Very much a visual society. And let's get to the bottom line. So thanks, Alf Newlin from Financial Sciences.
All right. Thanks, Craig.